My name is Rupert Baker and I played leading fireman Cross Malcolm with the series London's Burning. I did the original Jack Rosenthal pilot, and then I did the sort of first 6 years. I think I left 1992, and I think we shot the pilot in 1985 because I can remember them building Canary Wharf in the background. We could see that going on when we were out doing exercises. So there you go. I did a film for BBC Screen 2 with the director Les Blair, and it was a devised, improvised piece about an advertising agency, and it came my way because they needed somebody who could draw or had a bit of a sort of art background. And one of the things I did when I first started in the business, in between when I was trying to get acting work, was I used to draw storyboards and things like that, and do titling. I did a thing for Wogan on the Orient Express. For Queensgate Productions, designed a logo for them. Anyway, so that was the sort of starting point, and Les had done a very famous show in the 70s, Law and Order and various things, The Nation's Health, I think, and he produced Mike Leigh's first film, and both of them were very sort of pioneering on this thing of devising and improvising. So I went and saw Les, he got a good sense of humour, and we did some improvisations. I think we ended up doing an improvisation that went for 6 hours. Anyway, I was in Honest, Decent and True, and I played a dope-smoking art director, and we had some very good people in it. Richard E. Grant, Arabella Weir, she was my copywriter partner, and Gary Oldman was a struggling artist off in a flat. I mean, it was a very good lineup, and they had to, the brief was they had to try and sex up a lager from a fairly traditional brewery that wanted to get into the kind of cocktail market. Anyway, that was that. So I knew Les from that, and then I got a call out of the blue for this, but I didn't know that it was a drama at all. I thought it was actually a training film for the London Fire Brigade. So I went along to that and saw Les, and Richard, I think, was along at my first meeting as well, and we read sides together, and I can't remember who else. But anyway, then they mentioned Jack Rosenthal, and then everything obviously fell into place. I thought, well, that sort of can't be bad, because I mean, Jack is sort of, you know, was a kind of television god, you know, the knowledge and all the wonderful work that he did. So it sort of went on from there. And then I think we all met up a few weeks later, or about a month later, and we had another table read, and then Paul Knight said to us at the end, well, you know, you've got it as long as you don't ask too much money. And that was it. And then we had this famous white wine from the 21st floor opened in the rehearsal room. Everyone used to joke about the white wine from the 21st floor, where the LWT did all its sort of social entertaining. So that's it in a nutshell. I don't know what was in their mind, but in essence, no. I was always, I think, looking at Malcolm, but I think they were probably mixing and matching. I think we were in sort of clumps of 6 or whatever, or they got some people in place. I did hear something, and I don't know how true this is, so don't quote me on it, but I think they'd already got one lineup, but then the powers that be said, no, they're too old, we want to do it younger. So that probably maybe strengthened all our chances. And it just went on from there. I mean, the thing is with casting, as you know, it's sort of, in the end, it does itself, and also you get chemistry, and you know, you see what works and what doesn't, and there you go. I mean, we all gelled, all the people that ended up doing it. there was a sort of rapport or frisson or whatever you want to call it, but and that's terribly important on camera. Well, it's terribly important anywhere really, but more so on film, I think. Yeah. My father, who was a doctor in Deal, used to work quite closely with the various services, the ambulance and the fire lot. And there was a department store downtown opposite my dad's surgery and his practice, where him and Dr. Hanratty and Sybil Kinghorn worked. And next to that there was a department store, and that caught fire. A massive blaze, and you know, to the ground, about one wall left standing. So of course in those days we weren't online, so lots of prescriptions and notes for the surgery were in the building. So my dad ended up going in with the fire chief and trying to pull out paperwork and documentation while they could, because they thought it would spread on to Bank House. Anyway, later in the day, after they'd done that, when they were damping down, I got taken down to sort of see the scene and, you know, meet the odd fireman. And so that was my first experience of fire. And then leading on from that, I got taken round the new build fire station, because they had a new fire station built in Deal in the 60s. And so I remember that, and it was all terribly modern and zhuzhy at the time, but of course now it's sort of probably a retro piece. So those were really my sort of first points of contact with the fire brigade. But you know, it didn't figure any more in my life beyond that, but it was just an interesting tie-up or segue to what happened later. So I was very attuned to it, and I was very happy to be involved with something like that. The first thing we did was the pilot, the 2-hour film, and I can't remember what we kicked off with, what we shot on the first day, but that was the first thing, and that was in the summer of, God, I can't remember, 85 or something. And then, of course, there was a problem with the series, because the series was all set to go, and then there was a strike at LWT, something to do with, I don't know who it was something on the technical side, so everything sort of went on hold for a bit, and you know, time ticked by, and then you think, oh well, that was great doing the film, but maybe the other thing, the series, is not going to happen, so you know, you just have to open up for business and kind of move to the next thing. And I was off doing rep in Ipswich, and I got a call, and then they sent a couple of scripts up to me to look at, and this was about 2 years after the event, and they were good, they were very, very good, and I went back to my agent Bill and just said, yeah, I'm up for it. It was a good profile for the character, and yeah, having done the movie and enjoyed it, I was very happy to sign up. Well, I mean, who wouldn't be? We did actually find somebody who was like a doppelganger, who was public school, and I think ex-army, and was working in the brigade, and I think he even had a sports car. So the character really was not sort of a million miles away from what is actually out there. As we know in life, things sort of aren't pat, and they do line up in very unusual ways. So basically what I do is I always write a biography for myself, just so that I have the thing underpinned, so I know the character, and then I flesh that out from there. So, you know, what school he went to, what he's done in his life prior to that, you know, hopes, fears, dreams, where he buys his socks, you know, what he reads, what he eats. It all sounds stupid, but it all kind of actually does build up a very good picture, inner picture for yourself. And then you go on from there. So I can't remember exactly what I wrote, but I think I had him going to Wellington School, which I had been down to on just an opening day. And beyond that, you just riff, and you find things in your own life, and you find things in other people's lives, and you just stick it together from there. And then things evolve over time as well, because, you know, as you do, other things kind of come up. You know, and you know, it gets built from there. There had fairly recently been riots in London and Brixton and various other places that had been quite heated and quite bad. You probably know the thing that Jack Rosenthal had a nanny, and her boyfriend was a fireman and used to kind of come off duty and pop in for breakfast and would kind of sort of say what had gone on and everything, and that set Jack's mind ticking to this could be a potential story series. So anyway, you'd had these riots, and I think it was the first time also that kind of brigade and ambulance and, you know, all the you know, civil defence authorities, you know, were attacked. You know, they were normally, you know, if people are in the front line just trying to do something like get injured people out and, you know, put fires down, but no, this sort of came under really quite heavy fire, you know, rioting and all that. So that sort of figured as a template, and for the end of the movie, of course, because the character that Gary MacDonald played gets killed. They drop a paving slab out of a block of flats on him, which is awful, and he's just qualified properly for the brigade, and then that happens. So that was the sort of the backbone to it, and it was shot in the summer, and Les did a very good job, and you get this feeling when you watch the film of the tension simmering in all the communities, and then the lid comes off. And also there'd been Broadwater Farm and all those things, so and nobody had really done anything about that. So it was a very, very good script. There have been about 3 or 4 scripts in my life that I've kind of, but that one I just read from end to end. That and Tumbledown, which was an excellent piece of writing. Yeah, so that was the film, and in between that there was all the usual stuff that happens, you know. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Yeah, no, I can't remember, but I think there was something with Vaseline was doing some moonlighting, and he'd also been gardening for this person, and they turned up there to put the garden house out or something or other, and the usual things. I think a cat got run over that was rescued from a tree. All very black and all very funny, and all stuff that happens, as we know. We did a bit. The thing is that back then, the John Landis Twilight Zone film was coming to trial, where the actor Vic Morrow and 2 child actors got killed by a helicopter, and it all went very badly wrong. So everybody, that really kind of put jitters through the industry, quite rightly so. So everybody was very careful, and I do remember every time we got on a ladder or did something, they'd ring the insurance company, and you know, so the minute we turned over, we were covered. Some stuff we could do, but a lot of stuff you've really got to get pros. But we did a fair amount of the firefighting, and, you know, those scenes, and because the blazes were rigged, so unless something kind of went badly wrong, we had a few kind of close calls, and we always had the brigade on set. We had a wonderful stunt guy, Gabe, who loved it in the fact the worse it was, and the more dangerous it was, the happier he was. And who else worked a lot with Alf Joint, who was a real legend in the business, had done the milk tray dive in the commercial. Peter Diamond, who'd worked with Hammer a lot. I'd worked with Peter on another movie, Life Force. Yeah, so we had a really good crop of people working with us, top flight. A lot of people were working in TV because the film industry had been, you know, a bit rocky. That meant you got some really top flight people to work with, which was a real result. We decided to sort of do a cliffhanger and do it sort of midway through a series, because then you've just got a sort of, is he, isn't he, you know, what's going to happen. And I think I exited, I think it was episode 5 or 6, it was somewhere near the middle. I had a storyline with an old Blitz firefighter who'd been in the E.T. cruise. We had a very nice scene down by St. Paul's. But it was really a toss-up between staying in the brigade or going off with the girl I was in love with. I think the character was Helen. It's terrible, I can't remember. But she'd got a job in Brussels, so she was going to, you know, be over the water. So in the end, I decided to sort of go off and live with her and pack the brigade in. That was the gist of it. No, I decided to leave, but and we all put our heads together as to what we did for an exit. Little did I know it was going to go on for 14 years, but I still think it was the right thing, because I'd had the Christmas special, I'd had the original pilot, and I'd done 6 years, and you want to do other things, but I mean it was great, you know what I mean. So we just worked out something that was, there are X number of ways of getting out of these things. You either kill somebody, or you send them abroad, or do you know what I mean? Or they disappear, or So there are only various permutations. But that was quite a good storyline, I thought. Yes, I mean, it's hazy, but I can remember us doing that, and I think we were all up in the mess, peering out the window and cracking up. We all seem to do a few things from the mess. There's lots of jokes and things, sort of, as with all services, wheezes and wind-ups, and great fun. But I mean, if you're putting your life on the line every day, you've got to have some sort of safety valve. So you really need humour. Yeah, that rings a bell. Colin was the butt of lots of gags. We all used to do lots of gags to each other, sort of when we were shooting as well, within reason, because they're long days. It was a bit rotten, but it was very funny. First day that Steve North was in, and we were shooting down at Dockhead, and he wanted to go to the loo, so he asked me where the toilets are set. Oh, you see that porta cabin up there? It's the door at the end on the left. Anyway, I sent him into the ladies, which he wasn't too pleased about. But we all had a laugh about that. Then he got me back for something else, and sort of so it went on. So really kind of childish, fun stuff. I mean, it's all good fun. And I was the butt of loads of jokes, and we did loads of other things to each other. It was sort of makes it all more fun. That was the lorry that went off the dock, and there is a potential way of entering the water and rescuing underwater, but you shouldn't do it. It is forbidden. But if I remember rightly, a couple of people went down with their BAs on into the dock of the harbour, and to try and get the driver out, and that went wrong, and Vaseline drowned. And I do remember shooting stuff on the side of the dock, putting Mark into a recovery position and all the rest of it. That was a very good episode. I happened on it just one night on a late night rerun when I didn't even know it was on. But it was a sort of, it was a complete left field thing. There'd been some kind of quite light, frivolous stuff prior to it, and then you went bang straight into this sort of awful accident, and it was good. You know, we had good writers. We were very lucky. I can only hazily remember it, but it was like a sort of commando raid. We did it at night and we broke in and everything. That was great fun. I can't remember which station we used to break into. It was a modern build. Probably might be out your sort of way, but yeah, it was a fun thing. And then everything sort of lands on us. Was it around about Skase time? Or was it in the last series I did? Was it series 5? Or I think I went through halfway through 5. I can't remember, but it was a good laugh doing it. The wind-ups are always good fun. And I think Skase got wind of that. I was forever getting on the carpet for doing the wrong thing, taking the line out. A bit like my life, really. Yes, I can't remember what the reason was for that, but we all jumped up a rank. Was somebody off injured from the watch or something like that? I mean, it's a long time ago, so I can't kind of recall all that we did, but I do remember that happening because everybody leapfrogged up to you make up to the next rank to cover the thing. So something must have happened to Hallam, to Sean when that happened, but I can't for the life of me think what it was, and I don't know, it went on for a few weeks or something. But that's the protocol. Yeah. Not a lot because I wasn't in it much, but the money was very nice. But I do remember going up Oxford Street, or no, was it starting out Regent Street, and was driving up in a stretch limo with Jimmy and all the lights. It was a lot of fun. But beyond that, no, it's sort of. I think it was very successful. There's nothing wrong with it, but I didn't have much to do in that. That was a fairly light ep for me, or you know. Something similar, yeah, yeah. There was this guy that we talked about earlier who was in the brigade. Why do I think he was ex-Sandhurst or something? Yeah, I'm sure there are people like that. There were, you know, and everybody was based on real people or amalgams of people. I mean, quite often writers do a composite when they do a character, so you maybe nick a bit from one and, you know, and fuse another bit, you know what I mean? But a lot of the people were all based on people, and there was a real charisma as well, who had an even worse nickname, and so yeah, it all checks out. Not that I can really think of. I've seen stuff going up a lot. I lived down in the Weald of Kent for a while, and we did have an arsonist roving around for 1 year, and it's terrible, but you know, something like that happens, and then all the village turns up to sort of to peer at it. And I remember this particular fire. There was a real problem because they had a storage tank of oil near the barn, and they also had a lot of machinery and tractors and stuff, and they didn't want the tanks to go off. So it was quite a... But in terms of my own personal life, touch wood, please God, no. My mother's dishwasher caught on fire, which was quite funny, and the brigade had to come out for that. Oh, I can tell you one thing. This sports car that I had, which was a Triumph Spitfire, which was great fun, but of course it was, you know, of a considerable age, and I spent way over the odds replacing bits and pieces. But I did have a mechanical problem, and the clutch and everything went, and the thing was issuing smoke, and I had to stop that, and the brigade came out for that, and we had a right laugh about that, really. But yeah, no, no. Oh, they were great. It's very, very good in the sense that this thing of actually all working together in terms of, like, we trained, and we did the training. The written work we kind of we crammed, but and when we did the various sort of increments or sections of the brigade training, the physical stuff, we did that, and they truncated that down into a few weeks, and we always used to train before every series to kind of, you know, keep up to snuff. So that was a very sort of bonding and good experience, because we all had to sort of physically work together and coordinate. And the other thing is, everybody has something that they don't like. So when you do training, you know, this all comes to the fore. Some people get claustrophobic, some people don't like heights, all kinds of things. Going down a pole for the first time is a little bit unnerving. It's how you land at the bottom, but you know, you pick stuff up fast. But so it builds very much for a team experience, and you allowed for each other and back each other up, which is of course what you would do on a watch. I mean, I don't like heights, so I was very glad getting to sort of engage with that and conquer it. I mean, we all ended up going up 100-foot ladders and doing a climb off onto towers and all sorts of stuff. You're all right in life, actually, as long as you don't look down, if you look ahead. And there's a very precise way to transfer from a ladder into a building or onto a building. So no, it was really, really good. We had a lot of laughs as well. They were a really good crowd, so it was always a pleasure to go to work and hang out socially. We used to have wonderful Mexican nights. What was it? There was a restaurant, Break for the Border. We used to go there a lot, and but yeah, we had a lot of Mexican nights. The Mexican thing was really quite big, and everybody was putting lime in the top of beer bottles and all that. So we'd sort of go out en masse, and what was it, chimichangas, and lots of hot food. Yeah, great fun. And we'd all play football out the backyard, and what's the thing over the netball? Dear me. Yeah. Fine. They were both very different and both very good. It's funny, I was watching the telly the other night, and Andrew popped up in Widows with lots of long hair. Andrew was very good to work with, and James Marcus as well, because I mean, James had done a lot. You need a certain kind of mental weight and gravity, and they were both very good, and both very different in how they ran the watch, but it was very effective. You do need something, and I had a few scenes with Gareth Thomas, who I like tremendously, and he was again an extremely accomplished, good actor, and again this sort of gravity. So when we had all the stuff with the inquest after Vaseline's death, I remember I had to do quite a tough scene with him. He was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, wonderful guy. When we did the factory explosion and fire, and also the railway disaster, we used to go up to Peterborough because we would use the Nene Valley Railway, and they were happy to sort of stage various things with us. And the trouble with these were all night shoots, and they were rebuilding the motorway outside the motel, plus you'd got the RAF would be up doing exercises, and it was very noisy, and we used to get lots of disparaging looks in the morning because we'd be in the bar. But of course what people hadn't realised is that our working day had finished at 7 o'clock, so your day is all arse about face. So you come in and you have a couple of pints as you would, and then you have your breakfast. But of course the real world, they were all kind of off to their jobs, so they probably thought we were a kind of a dreadful lot of fly-by-nights. They had a great sauna and jacuzzi at the hotel, which was very, very popular and was very good for curing hangovers. And the other thing is, if we were away on location, we would spoof for the minibar. So, whoever drew the short straw ended up kind of covering the bar bill if we sort of had a late night drink, if we come back from something or had a night off. So yeah, what else can I tell you? We all had to keep well back on that because they used real explosives on it, so you had to be a good 500 feet away from it or something. I mean, and it really went off when it went off. And we had we went into the wrong fire once. That was quite funny. We went through the wrong door, and I mean, they would cover us. They'd have about 3 or 4 cameramen and zaps, so they would follow you. But it was all sort of anyway. We went in through it's very 11th hour, and we went in through the wrong door. And we ended up with a special effects team who sort of looked very nonplussed because they were sort of there with their kind of gas bottles and fishtails doing the thing, and we felt a right load of chumps. I mean, it was actually fine. You could use the tape because it was only it was the door next to the door that apparently we should have gone through, and somebody probably went through the right door. But that kind of melee, and sort of as things unfold, it actually makes for a very sort of realistic thing. As long as you know what you're doing, you can't drop the ball for 1 minute with fire. And the other thing is, I mean, things will flash over very quickly. We had one set that went up partially, and we just all bailed out and very quickly, and the brigade just sort of put the thing out. But it did do a sort of fireball down the stairs, and I got my ear slightly singed. But I think it was the first series that we wore the new brigade clothing, which is fireproofed, and it was very, very good. It did the trick. But yeah, it's surprising the amount of heat. I know that sounds a silly thing to say, but when you're really close to something big that's going, it really chucks out quite a bit of heat. And the other thing is you find that whatever you do, even fireproofing, in the end everything goes up, even with retardant. So you know you've really got to be have your wits about you. The sweatshop was tricky because that didn't sort of want to go out when you finished the take, and it did all catch very easily, the interior bit. But you know, we got the pros there. But yeah, that was very hot working through that. I suppose the sad thing is now, I don't know whether they'd let you do any of these things. We used to sort of love all the stuff, you know, we went up down a storm drain, and I did an episode with Glenn and all the boys, and I nearly got carried away in the current, and no, it was all good fun doing these things. But I think now everybody's probably so health and safety conscious, they mightn't let you near half the things that we were allowed to do, which is a pity. But there you are, you've got to look after people. Oh, the telephone. I think we did that 2 times. I remember There Is Nothing Like a Day, and then we did something else as well, which when I was thinking about this, I just sort of was trawling through to refresh myself, and we did this other number, which I can't remember. Can you remember? It's from a famous show, but it was a lot of fun doing it. And I do remember we had a very, very fine and famous choreographer who had worked a lot in the 60s and had done Lulu's show. I mean, because you know, none of us were really dancers at all, but he made us look very, very good. And yeah, it was a good routine. We're jumping up on tables and all sorts of stuff. It's kind of quite worrying how fit we all were. Well, some people are still probably fit. Yeah. Well, I'm still acting 40 years later. The pandemic has obviously had an effect and knocked some things on the head. The guy who just rang, we're working on a project at the moment. Mark James, he's with Widestream Films. Mark's a very good filmmaker. He's just done this wonderful documentary about reggae called Studio 17, The Lost Tapes. So plug for Mark, that's well worth looking at. So we're trying to get something off at the moment, and there are a few other things going, but I'm quite happy as we've had such a good summer, sort of just kicking back, gardening, and getting this place sorted out. No, my pleasure, Andrew. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much indeed.